I wanted to share with you a clip from the article. Is entitled State Department Stands by Advisor Who Spoke at Pro-Hezbollah Rally Where Jews Were Told to Go Back to Poland. This is the Washington Free Beacon. I believe this article came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Dearborn, Michigan Mayor Abdullah Hammoud, a member of the State Department's Assembly of Local Leaders, spoke on September 25th at a Stand With Lebanon rally in Dearborn to decry U.S. support for Israel against Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon. Hammoud, who has emerged as a leading critic of Israel following October 7th, touted his support for the anti-Israel divestment movement. Elected Dearborn mayor in 2021, Hammoud was introduced as, quote, the greatest mayor in the United States by Arab American activist Osama Siblani, whom the Harris campaign has met with to gain the support of Michigan's Muslim voters, hailed Hezbollah's Nasrallah during his speech as a hero and said of Israelis, "We will take you back to Poland." Clip number 1 from the interview with Abdullah Hammoud, because I want to talk to you about the propaganda.
Very fortunate to be joined today by Mayor Abdullah Hammoud, mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, which of course is a city that came in for a lot of attention this presidential election cycle. Great to see you again, Mayor.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, of course. So you decided ultimately, even though you're a Democrat, not to endorse in the race versus Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. Why did you make that decision, and what do you make ultimately of the results in your city?
Ultimately, my decision not to endorse stemmed on an issue of policy. We wanted a presidential candidate who would distance themselves from Benjamin Netanyahu and the ongoing genocide that's not only now in Palestine, but expanding in Lebanon. I'm of Lebanese origin and descent, so is my wife of Lebanese and Palestinian descent. To date, almost every resident I know in this city has had a family member or loved one killed, injured, or displaced. And so when you see the election results, and I just put out my message earlier, I think the first thing to note is no votes are promised to any party or to any candidate. Votes must be earned, first and foremost, especially from a community that is suffering directly from a genocide.
In that 1.5 minute clip, he said genocide 2 or 3 times, or I think at least 2 times. And it's an 8-minute interview. He says genocide, I'm estimating about 8 or 9 times. Let's deal with the first things first. Whether in Gaza or whether it's Lebanon, civilian deaths, innocent deaths, which are, according to objective rubrics, are the least in this type of guerrilla warfare than any other nation. The IDF has the best track record in having to fight terrorists, coming back to the second, embedded in civilian populations. Hamas intentionally embeds itself in schools or near schools, near mosques, near churches, in hospitals. They do this on purpose so that as the IDF has to go and fight them, the IDF with precision as much as possible, and it does all these things already talked about. They send door knocks, they send text messages, they tell the civilian population, we are going to be coming in this area. And what Hamas does is careen them and make sure that they cannot leave. And the problem becomes for Israel, Hamas not only do they not care about the residents of Gaza, they want them killed in the battle so that they can say what this mayor just said, Israel is committing a genocide. Because, I'm going to connect this to the other thing, in his claims of Israelis committing genocide in Gaza and in Lebanon, which is a lie, what he's not going to ever mention is Hezbollah, Hamas, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Islamic Jihad. Never. He's never going to mention that. Because what he wants everyone to believe is that the Israelis decided one day to march into Gaza and start killing Gazans, to march into Lebanon and start killing Lebanese. It's a lie, but it's a lie that keeps getting repeated over and over again on the left, and it's happening increasingly on the right. Well, here is conservative commentator Glenn Loury and his cohort, John McWhorter.
I stress it's not just a book about Palestine. It's a book about writing.
No.
So there, I'm finished. No.
That writing with a capital W should include genuinely constructive engagement with the situation, which has both a present and a past, and via elision, the word Hamas never appearing, so many other things never mentioned.
Glenn Loury, who calls himself a conservative, has been praising Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, which is slander against Israel. Though Glenn Loury has lavished praise on Ta-Nehisi Coates and his book, called The Message, in which he slams Israel as committing genocide, as being an apartheid state, John McWhorter tells you all you need to know for that clip, that Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote an entire section of his book about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or about what Israel's doing to Palestine and never once mentioned Hamas. The same thing that I talked about with the mayor of Dearborn, the same thing that I talked about with the Muslim Brotherhood operatives. The way you do propaganda is either by straight up lying or by omitting, which he said by elision, by omission. He said he never mentioned the word Hamas or other things. He didn't give any context to what's happening in Gaza. He just condemned Israel as an apartheid state. It's lazy thinking. So somehow we need proof, receipts. We need to have deep discussion until the Jews come into the discussion. Then, whatever bad thing you said, it's got to be true because the Jews.
Truth to Power Live with Jimmy Study Washington.